Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job.
Hello and welcome to Homeschool Together. Thanks so much for joining us. If you have a chance, head down, leave us that tasty, sweet review. We just got another one in and we appreciate it. And if you have a chance, check out the Gumroad store, maybe bookmark it in your browser. Something's coming out on Thursday. Keep an eye out for that. Also, if you head down onto YouTube, if you could, head on over there and subscribe to our YouTube channel. See our pretty faces, our rapidly slimming faces. My goodness. What is going on? We'll have to cover that a little bit later if we hit our goals, Miss Ariel. Inspire some homeschooling families on their New Year's resolutions. Today, as this episode drops, we know you just woke up. The kids are screaming. It's a day off. It's Labor Day. You're not supposed to do anything, but you might want to start looking at your homeschool space. You got homeschool coming up. School year starts in a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks like us.
Maybe it starts the beginning of the year because you don't roll with the school year like...
Maybe it never stopped. Oh my gosh. But you
right.
want to get your homeschool space. Maybe you're starting homeschooling for the first time and you're trying to get geared up. You have that new kid maybe who's starting. Maybe you got an older kid and you got that new 5 or 6 year old who wants to get started and you're feeling kind of out of sorts and you want to build up a new homeschool space. Today's Labor Day. We're going to do some labor. We're going to build that homeschool space, at least in the mind.
Yep, we talked about some great budget ideas last week for,
Our
decorating
budget
your space. But we thought it would be a good idea for those of you that are new to talk about like the mechanics of the space. What do you really need in a homeschool space?
Yeah, so the first thing is, obviously in your house, you're going to want to choose your space. So how do you go about thinking about that straight up?
Yeah, so I think that this is a difficult one. I say it's difficult because if you're someone who has like an extra room, a basement, or we've had some people have like porches or sunrooms. We've had people have different homeschool spaces. If you have another space in your house, it's great that you have that, but you have to almost question whether you want to set that up or whether you're better off doing it at something like the dining room table. If you only have your dining room table, then that's what it's going to be. But it's interesting. We have a homeschool. We have a bonus room, and it's set up as our homeschool space.
The true statement is, you want to build a homeschool space. You want to look at your room, but you really want to come to grips with why it will always be the kitchen table.
Well, so
that's what it will always be.
No, I don't think necessarily.
I joke.
You jest
because that's kind of the joke.
But what it is though is you have to really look at where is really practical. So just because you have another space in your house, is it really practical that you'll homeschool there? So we set up this beautiful homeschool room in the bonus room, and we set that up when our daughter was 4. We had a 6-month-old baby, and we realized very quickly after setting up this beautiful space that because we had a baby who needed to be in the high chair to be kept busy with Cheerios in order for us to homeschool, that we just ended up homeschooling at the dining room table. Yep. And then as that baby grew and our older daughter grew, we still ended up staying at the dining room table because that was where we could keep the baby fed, and then eventually the baby turned into a toddler. That's where we could do Play-Doh, and so it just kind of grew and grew. We're at the point now where we have a 3-year-old and a 6.5-year-old, almost 7-year-old, and we're just now actually using that homeschool space we set up years ago. So that's why I say, even if you have another space in your house, really, really think about, are we really going to use it? Is it practical, or am I going to put in all of this effort and money, cost to set this up, and then it not be what we need? And also realize that just like us, your homeschool space may change. Where your best set up to homeschool might not be the same this year as it is next year or the year after, depending on the age of your kids, the lifestyle of your family, what else you have going on. So there's a few different factors to choosing your space.
Yeah, but also thinking about the standpoint of like if it's a basement or it's an upstairs room, like getting all the kids together, marshaling them up, getting all your stuff, and going and committing to the room to go do that work. Sometimes that's a hurdle too big. I mean, and I know people are laughing. They're like, you don't want to walk upstairs to go do homeschooling. It's like, it's like I got up, I got the dogs fed, got all the dishes out, got the kids fed, making up lunches, packing things up, pulling things out of here, cleaning up the kitchen, living room while the kids are eating. And you're doing all this work, and all of a sudden it's like, I just don't want to go upstairs and then, make a huge mess up there. And, it's like you're starting to think about that and you just go, if I could just have a basket right here, this would be great. Yeah. And that's kind of the thing is a lot of times when you're doing the homeschooling is you can tend to discover where you best want to homeschool. Some people want to do it in the living room. For me, I don't like to, it's something that's been a big change for me is I don't want to go and sit on the couches all day or sit in the chairs all day. I like to have space that I can walk around while I'm teaching, or I want to walk around while they're doing a little bit of a workbook, and I just don't want to sit all day long because when I sit, I get bored. And when I get bored, I kind of like pull out my phone and want to start poking around on my phone. And I don't want to do that while we're doing homeschooling. And there's a big draw to that. And so like if I'm up walking and I'm moving, I'm doing something, moving from one kid to the next, I don't feel that temptation to kind of like become a doom scroller, right? And I don't want to do that. And so you may find you don't want to do certain things, or you want to have a certain, experience or whatever, or maybe you need to have a place where you can lock away your phone. That's been a big thing that I've been reading about, people just having a little box they just put the phone in, and it's like on the other side of the house. That distance allows you to detach. And so, going up to the upstairs room might be a big ask at, 8:30 in the morning when it could just be done right here.
Or it might just be
the lighting might be different. Like, I get a lot more natural lighting in the morning here in the spring, and I just want that sunshine. I don't want to go into the basement where it's dark and cold or something like that, right?
But maybe, you're having your kids in your dining room where there are other distractions. The TV is close by and there's other things in that area.
Snacks.
Maybe they can't, snacks. Maybe they can't focus. Maybe you need another room so that you can go in there and say, hey, when we're here to work and we're going to do, and you have you're set up there. You've got desks for them all. I mean, I think it's going to change. And this is the first year where we are actually using our homeschool room much more than we were before, because it is a space that we can all be in now with a younger child who's now doing a preschool curriculum and has something to work on and isn't quite so wild and crazy. It actually is starting to work out for us. But really think about your family, your style, the age of your kids, the setup of your house.
So how many hours are you logging in that one space? Like, for example, we've been doing a lot of our homeschooling at the kitchen table. It's like you do breakfast and you go right from breakfast right into morning basket, early homeschooling. Then you do the homeschooling and you're going between, you're doing activities, you're doing science experiments, you're doing that all at the kitchen table. Then you finally get up and go do something, and you come back for, lunch. Then you do some more homeschooling afterwards. And you're like, my gosh, I spent 4 hours at this kitchen table. And then you have dinner later that night. Maybe you play a game there. You just end up spending so much time in one place. You kind of want it to break. You need a break.
Well, it's true. And maybe you end up doing your homeschooling in multiple spaces, right? Yeah. Maybe you end up doing morning basket while the kids are having breakfast at the kitchen table before you go into your homeschool space and do some other formal learning. We're not going to be able to tell you where's best for your family.
There's all these considerations on.
There's lots of considerations, and some people also. So some people have dedicated rooms. Some people have, do it at the dining room table. Some people don't have any dedicated space, even the dining room. We have like a couple of bins, a couple of crates near our dining room table that we can use. But some people don't even have that. They've just, everything is rolling cart based, and they can take it into whatever room they want. So that might be a method that works for you too. Like, hey, we're not going to have any specific space. But today we're going to talk about, what are you going to do if you're going to create a space? And I think that not all of this, but most of this is going to be applicable to a dedicated homeschool space, or, it doesn't have to be 100% dedicated. It could be a den or something like that. Ours is a half guest room, half bonus room, homeschool space. And half playroom. So it's like, it's not completely dedicated, but if you're doing this at your dining room table, a lot of things we're talking about aren't really applicable. You don't need extra furniture. You're probably not going to put educational posters on the walls and things because it's your dining room. You are still going to have to think about some things about storage and about art display and projects and just some stuff, but just kind of take it with a grain of salt. We're trying to give kind of the most comprehensive view of setting up a homeschool space. And in that case, it would be a full space. So
Absolutely.
just know that kind of going in.
So they've gone out, they've identified the space, whatever it might be, or whatever method they want to start to design that space. You know, when you're picking these things, you're picking these goals for this space, what are they thinking about?
Yeah, so I think you have to really determine if this is a dedicated space or is this multi-use. So like I said, ours is multi-use. We have a little kitchen in there, or we recently did. We just got rid of the little kitchen, but we had a whole like play corner. We had homeschool stuff, and we have a Murphy bed that folds down, and it is a guest room when we need guests to come and stay. So we have guest stay. So really think about, is this just a dedicated, or you use this for other things?
But because when those people do come, if it tends to be often, like grandma comes over all the time, she needs to stay, or whatever, or you tend to have a lot of people in your house, over the course of the year. Do you want to constantly keep moving your homeschool space? Do you want to move your table all the time? Like, you got to think about that, and how that impacts your education and your schooling. How often is that room being used for other purposes?
Right. When we realized we had this kind of dual purpose, and then we were thinking about, we have not yet purchased, but we're going to purchase a big table for the center of the room. And we were like, oh man, but then we got to pull down the Murphy bed, and we realized that people only come and stay with us 3 times a year. And we could probably move a table 3 times a year and be okay with that, especially if it's a light IKEA table, we'll be okay.
But it also, because it's going to be kind of in the room, and it's going to be obvious that we had to move this for those people to be here. They ain't going to stay very long.
He's talking specifically about my parents.
What?
He doesn't. He wants them to get the sense that they are intruding.
This is down outright truth.
We digress.
We digress.
The other thing about your space to consider with the goals of your space is, how do you want your space to make you and your students feel? Does that space need to be very calm, right? Maybe you have really easily distracted learners. Maybe you yourself are easily distracted. You need the space to be super calm, very quiet. The decor that you put on the walls, the design needs to be uncluttered and minimalist, because you need this to be a very calm space. Maybe you need the space to be, maybe you've got a couple of children who are coming back from school, where they've come home now, they're homeschooling, and school was very stressful for them. Maybe you need your space to be completely cozy, soft, warm light, beanbag chairs, blankets, think that hygge, kind of method of just everything is cozy and inviting. Maybe your kids are like easily bored and you need the room to be exciting. Maybe you need posters on the walls of dinosaurs and, historical figures and animals, because your kids they really need this exciting. They need to go into this and feel like you're walking into a classroom that's, oh my gosh, there's all kinds of cool stuff on the walls. And maybe there's even things I've seen people, hanging stuff from the ceiling to make it just, constellation or, planet models and stuff like that from the ceiling. Like, think about what you need, what your learners need, and not just your learners, but yourself, so that you can feel comfortable. Because at the end of the day, this space is not for Pinterest. This is for you.
It might look Pinterest on the first day, but it ain't going to stay that way.
It might not even look Pinterest on the first day. I feel like like we start setting up homeschool spaces to look like this vision that we have of this soft, white, natural light homeschool spaces that we see on YouTube and pictures on Facebook and Pinterest. And nobody's homeschool space that I've ever seen looks like that. Yeah. Everybody's got some form of clutter or, mismatched furniture or whatever. That's okay. That's all right. It's for you. It doesn't have to be in the cover of a magazine.
It doesn't have to be super expensive. And I think what you're alluding to is you can piecemeal this, and it can be a very eclectic thing. You can find these things at garage sales, consignment sales, things of that nature. Goodwill or whatever thrift. You don't have to spend a ton of money to build out your space. It can have a lot of character in that respect. And I don't want to overlook the comment you had on comfort of the educator. I can't tell you how important it is to not have a crappy chair that you're sitting in. Have something that's comfortable to you. Even if you got to get good cushioning, get something that is comfortable to you, because you could, if you have multiple children, you're going to be committing 2 hours a day. You want something that is comfortable to sit in, that's something inviting. Also, think about yourself in the general sense. You can do your stretching or your yoga while your kid is doing a workbook right in front of you on the floor, right? You don't have to be just relegated to sitting in the couch or sitting in a chair. You can have your own things in there that help, enrich your own experience in the room, because the last thing you want to do is have that negativity going into the room going, oh my gosh, my back always hurts after I sit here.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to sit there. You don't have to do that to yourself. Have something that's comfortable. We have the nice couch now. We have kind of a reading nook. We have kind of padded chairs, something that I can kind of straddle and let my legs hang. So I'm not in that classic sitting position for 2 hours. I can kind of almost feel like I'm standing in some respects. I have these soft cushions that I can kneel on, and I'm tall enough that I can kneel and do work in some respects standing with my daughter right next to me. So don't overlook your own comfort in this, because it's not just for the kids, it's also for you as the educator. And you definitely want to make sure that you're feeling comfortable and you're feeling welcomed in the space as well.
Right. So you've got your goals for the space. Is it dedicated, or is it multi-use? What does the tone of the space need to be? That calm, exciting, minimalist, right? The things we talked about. Then there's the utility of the space. What does this space have to accomplish for you? Do you need space for each kid to have their own individual desk working, whatever working surface, that they each have their own individual space? Do you need the big table where everyone can collaborate? Do you need a desk for yourself that you can sit at while your kids are working, and you can work on lesson plans and, whatever it is that you need to do?
Whatever,
yeah. So,
or preparing for the next lesson or whatever it is.
Yeah. Or do you need somewhere where you can lecture, right? We have a giant whiteboard in our room, because we just felt like we didn't know how often you were really going to lecture, but that was a utility that we wanted in the space. If you wanted to draw something out, if you wanted to illustrate what was going on, you could stand up and do it because that board was there. Yeah. We wanted media in our room so that you didn't have to leave the room to go downstairs to the TV to watch a YouTube video about a science topic. You could just cast it onto the TV that was there. So really think about the utility.
We have the Google Home as well, if you want to add a little bit of music ambiance, if you're doing kind of a music study, or if you need a little bit of kind of relaxing music while your learner is working on a notebook. Think about those type of things as well.
Yeah. So really think about what do you need this space to be, more than just the decor?
Yeah.
Functionally, what does it have to be? Hey, in our case, for example, we need a collaborative space where you can sit with our daughter. Yep. We need a comfortable reading spot for her to go and read her individual readers. We need a place that you guys can all sit comfortably and watch videos on screen together without having to leave the room and break out of that kind of homeschool block. You can stay in there. We need a large floor space where our preschooler can play while you homeschool. Mm-hmm. There's some big utility things. So really get those down before you start thinking about what furniture you're going to buy and how you're going to fill the room. Because, for us, for example, we don't need an individual desk for ourselves. We need a place to collaborate with our learner, but we don't necessarily need a desk to work on planning, because that's not our model. I plan and you execute. So it's different for us. So
and even think down to the granularity of, how do you want to work with your student? Are you a face-to-face learner? Do you need a table that you guys can both sit on and then you guys are looking at each other?
Yeah.
Are you are they a side-by-side learner where you can kind of sit next to them? Are they a set it and forget it learner? Do they just need a small table where you just periodically check in on them? These are the types of little things that you probably want to think about with respect to how you're designing this space.
Yeah, exactly. So we talked about these goals, and one of the things is, understanding your goals for you and then for your learners. So this is a good opportunity too, before you put something in the space, to really talk to your kids about what it is they think they need. And, you're going to take that with a grain of salt, certainly. But it's a good idea to get their input so that they're invested in this process too of creating this space, because this is their classroom too, essentially. This is the environment where they're going to be learning and making the breakthroughs and having all these great moments with you. You need to understand what they think they might need in a space too. So just kind of important. And we did talk with our daughter a little bit about, what she wanted in the space when we got started. And she was supportive of, she really wanted music in the space. She wanted to be able to turn something on when she was working on, art or whatever, that she could listen to music. That was something that was part of her input into the space. So really think about, yourself, your learners, and get their input so that they're bought into what you're going to do, and transform this into a collaborative environment and productive environment for everyone.
And then as an educator, there may be some infrastructure things that you need to support that room, whether they're like folders or crates or binders or rolling carts and things of that nature. How and what do you need? And then how will that fit in that room so that it's easy to access? I love having pencils and scissors and glue and things like that in little caddies that I can just pull right up in case there's something. Like today we were doing a little bit of reading and I needed to get a pencil. My daughter needed a pencil really fast. And instead of like stopping and going, where do I keep those pencils? And the clamshells over on the other side of the room. For me, I want to be able to, within one arm, reach, 90% of the things I need. Because if I have to get up, I might lose the focus. I might lose that connection. It'll take another minute or two to get back into it. And we're starting to waste time. But if I can get those things really quick, we can continue the momentum that whatever momentum we may have already built up. So thinking about how you want to place those things, the crates, the caddies, the curriculum, those are important decisions on building in the efficiencies around your homeschooling, because we don't want to spend a lot of time, wasting time, because we can do this faster. It's nicer to do it faster.
Yeah, we put a special shelf in the homeschool room just for school supplies that is right above
literally
the
at the
table.
height where I can sit in the chair and I can just reach it. And it was just perfect. So it's just out of the way that where both kids can't just reach it on their own. But it's perfect for me to get glue, scissors, pencils, pens.
Yeah. So when you think about what you need as an educator too, think a little bit ahead, especially when it comes to storage for curriculum and different things like that, because whatever you have now, it's only going to grow.
Especially if you're waiting for another student to come along and you got to hold curriculum. We're starting to have that kind of accumulation on a shelf, and we're already got one shelf. We're starting to work on a second shelf now. And
we had some art supplies, but now we have two kids doing art, and the art supplies just seem to be growing and multiplying on their own.
Like
so make sure that when you're thinking of this space too, whether it's file cabinets for storage or shelves or bins or whatever you're going to do, think about expansion and how you're going to do that and how you're going to manage that. Because the worst thing would be to put in this perfect system this year and it works great, and then next year you're totally out of space again. We want to do better than the new freeway model, right? Which is always, by the time it gets done, it's, the traffic has grown. We need another lane. So so think a little bit ahead too when you're thinking about storage and what you might need.
Then going on to technology, obviously technology's played a bigger and bigger piece in our lives. Do you need a computer? Do you need a desktop computer? Do you need a TV? Do you need some tablets? Some of those, that technology needs charging cables and stations. Do you need a caddy for that? Do you need stylus for your tablets? What do you need to make that efficient? How do you want to connect your phone to, the TV? Do you want to cast it? So do you need a Roku and things of that nature? And we've done a lot of episodes on various technologies in the homeschool space. So definitely we'll go ahead and link that playlist on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, we have a Roku on our TV, and it works really well because we can Apple mirror our phones, so we can turn a YouTube video on. We could either Chromecast the YouTube video to the Roku, or we can just screen mirror from Chrome, from a browser on an iPad or on our phones, and show our kids what we're looking at. So there's a lot of ways for us to instantly connect without having to leave the room. For us, that's a big one. If we're there and we're doing it, we want to stay in the space. Especially
repurposing an old TV like we did, putting it up on the wall. It's rare. It's it's used like once a day, maybe less. that is a good way to incorporate that into your homeschool. And for a lot of us, we have these older TVs, but they're already like 50-inch TVs, so it's like you're talking about a dream level monitor for your homeschool just sitting right there.
Yeah, a monitor would work too, and I know a lot of people do that on the wall.
Well, especially like we're at a short table. If I had like a 25-30-inch monitor on the wall right in front of me, connected to a desktop, and I just had a keyboard and a mouse sitting there, I mean, talk about a great learning tool right there. And anytime there's a question, we could do anything on that computer. The monitor would be on all the time. So think about those types of things, how you want to incorporate technology to aid and improve the quality of the education, how you want to supplement things, how you want to enhance things. And I always think about technology as not the tool to do the teaching, but the tool to enhance the teaching. Adding videos, adding, art, and adding references. If they have a quick question, we can answer it really fast. Showing them how to find information, because once they get old enough, we want to make sure that they have the tools to go actually into the world and find that information, find it on Google, find it on YouTube. And when they see you doing those type of searching, they start to learn those methods. I know our daughter is very, very focused on how do I use the search terms. I wonder if like reading will finally have the breakthrough, because then she'll be able to start doing her own search terms on YouTube to find LED videos and things of that nature. But how do you want to use the technology? Some of us don't want any screen time. We don't want any screens, and that's fine. No one's accusing you of anything there, and that's fine. But some of us like to have technology incorporated within it. So that's a big thing for me.
And having the Google Home there has been really big because of all of the music we've been able. We were doing composer studies with Blossom and Root.
And we're about to do it again.
We're about to start Blossom and Root Early Years Volume 1 with our younger daughter. So we'll be doing that again, and that was really fun. It's fun to play music during art time. Mm-hmm. And speaking of art too, another consideration you need to make in your space is, where are you going to store and where are you going to display the art? Because let's just talk about it. Let's be real. Art and craft projects, they are everywhere. So we ended up having a wall when you enter our homeschool space that it ends up being behind the door later. But if the door's closed, it's visible, where we hung up a string with clothespins, some sparkly clothespins, so that we could hang up the art. And one of the things with our kids is there's only 5 clips. So when it's full, you have to decide which piece of art has to go away in order to hang your new piece of art. And that's how we kind of cull art, and things that are really good I save in a box.
That's the reason why Grandma gets so much fresh art. We make so much art. Grandma needs it. They don't throw it away. They just put it in the grandma pile.
Right.
Here you go, Grandma.
It's something to think about. So you have your space. So you've decided what space you want to use. You've decided what kind of utility you need out of this space. What are the major elements that you need? If you know the size of your space, it could help to draw this out. Maybe you could put this on a graph paper. So I need desks. I need a big table in the center. I need a space for myself to work. I need bookcase storage. I need a file folder cabinet for curriculum. You can know the major elements, kind of lay out your space. Think about how you want to incorporate technology. Think about how you want to display art and science projects, because that's going to be a thing.
Storing active curriculums, not just old curriculums or up and coming curriculums. How are you handling your current curriculum? Right.
And we had an episode not too long ago, link in the show notes, all about organizing curriculum. One thing you can think about too is we have a crate system where we have all things like current math related in a crate. So she has a math curriculum, but then she also has math games and other
manipulatives,
things that are, fun math things that she can decide and go, oh yeah, I want to do that as my math activity for the day. So we have those in rotation. A lot of folks, I was just looking in a homeschool space last night of a friend, and they have a games closet in there where all their educational games live there, so that they don't have to leave their homeschool space to pull out an educational game. And we're game schoolers. We love that. We love being able to pull out educational games. So maybe that's a consideration. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at utility, storage. It could be a lot of things, right? It could be complex, especially if you're staring at a blank room and you're like, I don't know what to do with this.
And the best thing
where do I start?
Start simple, right?
Exactly.
For the most part.
Simple and cheap.
Simple and cheap. For the most part, you need something to sit down at. You need something to sit in. And you need just something to hold your curriculum.
Right. The very basics, if you don't have any idea what to do, grab a table off of, Buy Nothing or Craigslist for dirt.
Yep.
Put a few chairs at it, get a bookcase to hold stuff, and just start there. Like,
You'll add what you need.
you could literally start with a bookcase and a table and grow. Yep. Make posters, acquire things, figure out what you need. Don't be intimidated by this if this is your first time setting up this space, and if you've homeschooled for a while and you kind of have an idea what you need, that's great. But if you're totally like, I don't know, give yourself someplace to work and someplace to store all your stuff, and you'll be okay.
I agree. So that's the idea of design, those considerations. Talked a little bit about kind of what we do. What are some more, important considerations when they are starting to step into it? For me, the big thing is, the homeschool room doesn't have to be, the be end and end all. It doesn't have to be the final thing. I have found that over the last couple of years, we have constantly moved from different rooms. Sometimes we're in a living room. Lately, we have been heavy in the kitchen room, kitchen table, but now we are starting to move more and more to our bonus room because I need to utilize that more. I like the space a little bit more. I'm going to have a few more open days where I have kind of an all-day availability with homeschooling where I don't have a lot of requirements in the morning. I want to start using that space as it was designed for, and to have a space where there is the idea of education. And we are lucky enough to have that extra room. Some people don't have that luxury, and we understand that, and that's fine. We've heard people using, small spaces in their living room, like right around the corner, bookshelf. I know one of the things that we're looking forward to getting rid of is all the crates in our living room and in our dining room, so it doesn't look like it's a schoolroom right
but
there.
I think that's an important thing to talk about, really. If you have a dedicated room, hey, that's awesome.
Yeah.
If you do just have your dining room, again, the basics are someplace to work and someplace to store your stuff. So you'll need maybe it's a rolling cart that you can roll out of the way and put away in a closet if you have company. Maybe you're going to put bookcases right in your dining room area, and that's where you're going to hold your curriculum. We've seen tons of families do that. At the very basics, someplace to work, someplace to store your stuff, and the extra added thing is someplace to showcase your kids' stuff, whether it's their art or their projects. And, even if you don't have a dedicated space, you can find some way to work that in. And I know there's lots of people that love the variety of rolling cart things, especially if you have to, quickly transform that from homeschool space to dining room table to eat dinner.
But also if you're on the go, if you're going to your co-op, like we go to our parent partnership, these parents are rolling in with these carts.
Yeah, they have these really cool they're
wheels, and they're like
they're
almost like a file
plastic pop-out bins, right? That hold files.
I'll see if I can find one on Amazon and I'll link it in the
Yeah,
show notes.
and these folks have all of their curriculum in it. They roll into the parent,
lots of bungee cords.
and then they roll into the parent partnership with all of their curriculum, and they pop it out, and they do all this work. And I'm sure when they get home, it has like a spot that they just roll it into. They're not offloading that onto a bookshelf.
Yeah, I'm guarantee you they're not packing that every day and unpacking it. No, that's their rolling system.
Right. And so for them, that works. They can probably use their dining room table at home because they're going to be homeschooling at their parent partnership every other time. Maybe you have a kid who's hyper involved in some sort of sport. Our daughter's looking to get into swim team. It's like 4 nights a week. I'm not sure if we're ready, but I could see us
Hold on to your butts.
homeschooling our younger daughter at swim practice because we'll be there for 4 nights a week. We're going to have to use that time judiciously and work on some preschool stuff, I'm guessing. So
Child care at the Y is not open at 5
right. So you can
us.
still incorporate some of this stuff even if you don't have a traditional room. If you've got a dining room or you're on the go, you really need someplace to store everything. I really go with that whole adage, a place for everything and everything in its place. This is one of those times because this is truth here. If you're a new homeschooler, homeschooling spills out into your entire house. It does.
It's like the old 50s movie, The Blob.
Yeah, it just goes everywhere. And so the more you can have spaces to store stuff that it can be put away, and theoretically, your kids could put it away. Will it happen? I mean, that's up to you. Get back to us. But if there's a spot for it, your chances are much higher We do something with our kids where we say, are they blank ready? Our kids want to watch a movie. I don't know, is the house movie ready? And then they have to run around and clean things up because we can't watch the movie because, the house isn't clean, or, they want dessert. I don't know. Is the living room ice cream ready yet? And they'll be like, no, and they'll run and they'll clean it. So, try that if you haven't, because it works really well. But yeah, trying to have a spot for everything, because not only is your current stuff going to go everywhere, but you're going to accumulate more and more stuff over the years, and it will also start spreading and disseminating throughout your home. Yep. And I think that basically all of us homeschoolers, you walk into our houses and they didn't know you were homeschooling. They'll know when they walk in, and that's okay. I feel like that's kind of a badge of honor too, that our homes do look a bit cluttered with educational stuff, and there are science projects in the fridge, and that's okay. That's really okay.
Yeah, but going with that is that our house is a homeschool room, but it's not a kindergarten classroom. It's not the classroom. You don't have to make it that.
Yeah, I think this is really important. You see these homeschool spaces, especially the pictures online or on people's YouTube videos. It's crazy, and you see these homeschool spaces, and it looks like you walked into this cute little classroom that was in somebody's home.
5-person micro school.
Yeah, with all these.
It's beautiful. I mean, they look great. I'd love to have that.
It's gorgeous, right? Yeah, it looks like a private daycare or something. It looks amazing. But your space doesn't have to look like that. Don't feel like you have to keep up with the Joneses. There's a really terrific Facebook group called Real Homeschool Spaces. I encourage you that if you're setting up a new homeschool space or you're worried about how yours looks, join this group. It's good for a couple of reasons. One, it shows you what they really look like, not what people who want to, promote online show their spaces look like. The other thing is that if you have a room that you're not really sure what to do with, like you just moved into a new house, you've got this basement, it's laid out in this funky way, or you have this den or whatever it is, you can take pictures of it and ask people, what should I do with this? Or what ideas do you have? And people are so helpful. So I would really join that. Because it doesn't have to look like a classroom. And especially if it's an area of your home that other people are going to see, like let's say you do have a den and there's not a door on it, and that's going to be your primary homeschool space. That's a space that you might want to look like, educational, but maybe also presentable. So, you may have some different goals in mind. Maybe your homeschool space has to match with your home's decor a little bit more than a space where we can shut the door and it can look as zany as we want it to look. The most important thing is that the space works for you. It works for your learners. Everyone is productive and feels good in that space. That's the most important thing. And,
if it is your first year, and you guys just listened to our budget homeschooling series that we just finished, the homeschool space does not need to break the bank. We've mentioned this already.
Please don't spend a lot of money your first year, because that would be terrible if you spent a bunch of money on this and then it didn't work out because you weren't, you're new. You didn't know exactly what you needed. We have changed our homeschool space in the last 3 years. Even though we don't use it all that often, we've changed it like 4 times. So
it's like the crib that we bought for our first kid and we never used it.
Right. Because she just wouldn't sleep in a crib. No. Yeah, we had to co-sleep. And so, it's like, our homeschool space is completely 100% comprised of reused pieces of furniture from other parts of our house. It's like, we had these extra bookcases in the office while we redid the office. Hey, they're going upstairs.
Grandma's getting rid of her couch. I'll take that.
Yeah. We need to get a new TV. I guess the old TV goes upstairs. We don't need this desk anymore. Hey, that could go to the homeschool room. Remember that old folding card table we had? It was kind of nice. It has a wood top. Let's make it the homeschool table. So we completely just repurpose things, and you can find some great stuff on your local Buy Nothing group or Facebook or Goodwill or garage sales. You can get some really cheap stuff to start. And then once you know what you like and you guys are into a groove and you're like, yeah, I want a really big table. For us, we started out with this wooden topped card table that's like, what is it, 4x4?
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, maybe it's even smaller than that. It's not super big. And now we know, okay, we want a giant table because what we really want is collaborative space.
Yeah, it actually taught me that I like side by side with my daughter as opposed to that kind of 90 degree. I always felt like I was like bearing down on top of her, but side to side works a little bit better because I can kind of sit back a little bit and I kind of disappear from her side of view.
Yeah.
And so she feels like she's a little bit more autonomous. Just even then that little change.
Yeah.
We've
it's
gone
like
from that corner table or a corner setup where I kind of sat on the left side, she sat on the right, and we kind of faced each other quasi. She didn't like that. I like the side by side a lot better. So those are just those little things that we discovered along the way.
You found what worked, and now we want to get a big table,
and that's
so
so
that we
like
can
nuanced.
do that.
That's such a that's such a in the weeds type of thing, but. Those are those little things that you could find that just aren't working for you.
Right.
Yeah.
What if you do spend a bunch of money on a big table and find out that your students really need their own private working spaces?
Yeah. Like a desk or whatever.
Yeah, and they need their own little desks, and then it's like, oh man, you've already spent this money. So if you're not sure what to do, you haven't homeschooled before, try to get your stuff on the cheap or repurpose things from your home. And we talked about a lot of stuff in our budget homeschooling episode, but really don't break the bank on it your first year, because it may look super cute, but if it doesn't work for you, then it was a bit of a waste. And the other thing is, the more money you spend on the space, the more hesitant you will be to change it when it's not working for you, because you spent this money. And I totally do this.
Yeah, you get a little bit of a sunk cost fallacy there.
Right. Yeah. And so because most of the things in our space, actually all the things in our space, are completely reused, we can rearrange them, get rid of them, move them to other parts of the house, sell them, give them away, whatever. And I don't feel bad about any of it, because it was all just reuse anyway. So as much as possible, try to, use what you have or can get, free or cheap.
Next thing is, if you have multiple kids, you want to think about collaboration. If you want to design your homeschool space, is that something you want to do? Like, this is something that has become a little bit of a sticking point for me. And I've been trying to think about, as I incorporate our 3-year-old into the homeschool space. Right now, she's kind of on the other side of the room playing on the couch with all the toys. And if I need to come over there to help her, she's got this kind of toddler book that she likes to use, and scissors and markers and glue and stuff. And I can kind of set her up and she can kind of play and do some activities. But it's like 10 feet away from me, 12 feet away from me. I have to get up out of the chair, walk across the room, help her, then come back. And I may have to stop what I'm doing with my 6-year-old or almost 7-year-old. And it kind of breaks the flow. And I don't know if she should be working like next to me or on a table that I can kind of swing around. Like, I'm starting to try to figure out how I can do collaboration between my kids and how I can move between them efficiently and minimize the impact, or forcing me to have to get up and stop so that I can come over here and have a problem. Or if she's doing Khan Academy, on the tablet, which she's starting to play around with, is that something that I have to get up and go help her, right? But if I could just spin around, get her out, she clicked on something wrong, and I get her back into it, and I can turn back, that saves me, a minute or two of lost time. Those minutes add up over time. And so I'm trying to see, to kind of play with that efficiency. It kind of goes back to that, make simple choices up front when you start, so that, as you get more experience in the homeschool room and you get more experience in what your kids really need and what you need, and we know that always evolves, so things are going to be changing. Understand how you can collaborate with them. That's a big thing, is now starting to manage. I'm starting to get into the crowd management.
Right.
Activities.
And you may determine, we've been talking lately about putting a table, actually another part of the house, that they might homeschool.
An L-shaped table or something.
Well, we were thinking even about doing an elevated, like a bar height table, so that you don't have to sit. So you could actually just stand and help the kids and walk around between the kids.
And I would prefer to do that. Yeah.
And that would be another great way to go. So, there are lots of options when it comes to that. But think about collaborating and teaching, and, what's going to work best for you.
And then finally, assessing those supplies, your curriculum, how you're going to access things, how you're going to store them, how you're going to hide them, how you're going to discover things.
And store them so that you can easily find them.
Yes.
Like we've got one of those Michael's photo storage boxes that we put all of the manipulatives for Right Start Math in. That way we just know that's the Right Start Math bit, and everything goes there.
It's a great point, because I'll get to a chapter and it'll say, hey, go get these cards. I'm like, oh man, those are in the big tub, and I've got to go all the way to the closet, open it up, and it's like, oh, thank gosh, they're right here. I
right.
Just pull it right
they're in
out,
the photo bins.
look, and there it is, and I get it, and I pull it out.
Yeah, it's really nice to
save so much time. And going back to that same idea that I keep bringing up, which is saving time and saving minutes. Because man, if you're saving 10, 15 minutes a day, that adds up so
Well, I think those are
fast.
pure frustration minutes.
They are.
That's the problem with them. It's not really that in the grand scheme
We've
of
talked
things
a little bit about
that
frustration
10,
minutes.
15
yeah.
minutes, but I can hear it in your voice. It's like, man, I just got sat down. We're just working. And now it's like,
Yep.
darn it.
stop.
I've got to go find this thing and I don't know where it is. So when you think about storage, think about accessibility. In our organizing curriculum episode, we talked about like long-term storage versus short-term. And really think about like, how am I going to get to things and find them quickly and easily? And even better, if your kids know where to find them, to be able to put them away so that you don't have to, manage all the manipulatives all the time would be, bonus points for that.
Great. Really think about manipulatives, but also like pencils and papers and things like that.
Art
Storage.
supplies.
Because we have our art caddy that we can pull down when we're doing more art heavy stuff. But if you just need some crayons and markers and some scissors to do some quick activity, having that right there that you can just pull out again goes back to those frustration minutes. You just really want to save those minutes as much as you possibly can. Next, make sure those kids own that space as well. Let them make it what their own. If you have an old throwaway table, there ain't nothing wrong with putting a few Elsa stickers in the middle of that table, or letting them write in Sharpie that one time, putting their name in the center of the table, or drawing a flower in the middle, or
giving them space on a shelf for some of their own things. What if it's like, hey, once we finish, when you're done with your math lesson or whatever it is, before your siblings are done, you can go to your shelf and grab your special things that you want to play with or read or whatever. Giving kids someplace where they can put a few of their own things in the room. Maybe it's a decor item. Maybe they just help you because they've got an action figure or an art piece of artwork or something that they want to put up in the space because that represents them. I think that's great. This isn't as impersonal as like, the kindergarten teacher sets up the classroom and all the kids go and it's just generic. This is your space. And what better way to fill it than to fill it with items, from your children so they can feel like this is their space to learn. I love that idea.
Yeah, maybe your kid likes dinosaurs, or maybe they like Godzilla, or maybe they like, My Little Pony, or whatever it might be. Definitely let them decorate. If you've got a caddy that's kind of a file cabinet and it's just bland white and it's not interesting, but that's, Sarah's cart, let her put stickers all over that thing, right? That's her thing. Like maybe they have their own shelf in there. Let them decorate the shelves to be what it is. But it's going even further on decor and decorations. You don't have to decorate anything right up front.
Right. Yeah. Just to get started homeschooling, literally just a table and a bookcase. And if you don't have a bookcase, grab a milk crate for $2 from Walmart, and there you go. You got someplace to store your curriculum. It doesn't have to be crazy, and you don't have to feel like, oh my gosh, we're starting the school year, and I'm starting homeschool now. I need to have my whole space set up. No. This is something that can mature and evolve, not just over this year, but over many years with what do you want it to look like, and adding bits and pieces as you find things on sale, or you finally know what you want, then you can grab things. Don't feel like you have to do it all like right this second.
Yeah, because there's that evolution over time, and really embrace that, because we know with our learners, they're going to be changing over time. They're going to be, what they enjoy, how they like to learn. A lot of that is going to change over time, but also how they want that presented to them in the space that they're in. Maybe, your kid might want to go sit in their bedroom and do Khan Academy alone. That gives you a little bit different, a little bit more focused time with another learner. Or maybe they like to, walk around when they're reading a book or whatever it might be. Who knows, right? So think about those type of things. Things will evolve and things will change. So don't get wedded to one design. Constantly get the feedback, constantly watch what is working, what is not working. Ask them what they like, and maybe you can make changes over time to be a little bit more efficient.
So hopefully this gave you some good ideas. We tried to kind of just, get you thinking about different options, but definitely join that Real Homeschool Spaces Facebook
We'll put
group.
it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put a link down the show notes so that if you can get more ideas you can just scroll down and you can look at what other people have done. You can ask questions about, what items did they purchase. There's lots of folks there who are hacking IKEA items and doing other things really affordably. And you can get some really great ideas if you're just not quite sure where to start. Hopefully between what we've talked about today and what you'll see on there, you'll be able to put something together and then, send pictures. I want to see your cute homeschool spaces or your not cute homeschool spaces that are totally functional.
You should start a thread on the Facebook page.
Yes, I'll have to start one.
People are comfortable enough they can share what their
I'll take a picture of our homeschool space and you can see what it looks like. And then you all can do some show and tell.
It'll be, should I clean it before you? No, I won't clean it. You're going to see all the curriculum all over the desk. It's going to be a disaster.
Yeah. I think we got to be real.
It's called Mad Max homeschooling.
We are real here.
Yes, exactly.
It's not always going to be clean. In fact, it's almost never clean. But it is functional. It does work for us. And hopefully your space will work for you and your learners.
So we finished the budgeting series. We didn't get to do what we normally do at the end of a podcast because that was kind of a special thing. But we do want to get back into what we're into. Our daughter, thanks Nicholas Flamel book series by Michael Scott, is about the coolest thing on the world.
Yes, so she's been reading. The first book is called The Alchemist.
The Alchemist.
It's a story. It's kind of a modern day fantasy story.
Yeah, contemporary fantasy.
Yeah, so Nicholas Flamel and his wife, they've been alive for like 600 years.
Immortal Nicholas Flamel.
And there's a codex, and there's elders, and there's good elders and bad elders, and there's prophecies.
There's 2 young kids, Sophie
and there's
Josh, I think is the
and
names.
there's the twins that are part of the prophecies, and it gets into shadow realms, and it goes crazy. And there's I think 6 books in the series, and our daughter has listened to all of them on audio.
So this is one of the first times in our lives so far where our daughter discovered something that she really, really liked that we hadn't been part of.
Yeah, and I don't remember how you found it.
So I found it as like an alternate. So we were doing the Harry Potter thing. She's on book 3. We're moving slowly through the series, so I think we're going to get into Goblet at her birthday.
Right. I didn't want to move to Goblet yet because of the whole death thing. So I wanted to wait.
Spoilers.
Oh, everybody knows that now.
Anyway, so I was trying to look for book series that are alternatives to Harry Potter. So we had the Pennyroyal Academy that we tried,
which was all right.
which was okay. And then
Didn't really dig it.
We did a couple other ones. I did the Dresses one. I don't even know the name of it. There's like the Ruins of Gorlan or something like that. The something Apprentice or whatever. Didn't really resonate as much. And then somebody recommended it was one of these, top 10 lists of alternatives to Harry Potter because she kept listening to the audiobooks so many times
For Harry Potter, yeah.
that she was like, Dad, is there anything else that's not Harry Potter? And I'm like, ooh.
Not that she didn't love it,
Not
but
that
she was like wanting more.
After the 4th or 5th time through the audiobook, I think she was a little done. So I said, I found this Nicholas Flamel. And so I dialed into our library system through the Libby app, and I went ahead and was able to get the audiobook of the first book. And people recommended it, and I had, it looks like it was in her, age range-ish type of thing. She's kind of an advanced audiobook reader, but still new reader, so she likes the audiobooks. And man, did she just lose her mind over this.
She was, and the story is very complex. She's
very
done
complex.
all 6, and she made me purchase all of them. So I bought them all used, so we have them all. And now we're reading them, and we're halfway through the first book. And I have to say, it's quite good. Yeah. I'm really enjoying it too. And she just keeps saying, "Just wait, Mom. Just wait. It's getting better. It's getting better." Other than Harry Potter,
there's also a lot of famous characters.
There are
that come in that they're kind of all these immortal people. Like I know William Shakespeare makes she goes, "Daddy, do you know who the Bard is?" I'm like, "William Shakespeare?" She goes, "Yes, he's in my Nicholas Flamel book."
Yeah, there's various famous people that are in the book that are, I don't know how they're all going to work in, but I've never seen her as excited and interested in a book series since Harry Potter. Yeah. That this is, she asks to read every day. She wants to read another chapter of it. So we highly recommend it.
I do believe she's listened to these audiobooks multiple times.
Oh, she has.
Yeah.
She really loved it. So we'll link the first book here down in the show notes so you can take a look at it. Yep. And if your learners are also Harry Potter type folks, there's not a school for magic in this one, but there is modern day magic. So you might want to check it out. The Alchemist by Michael Scott.
Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey.
Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time,
Happy homeschooling!